let's talk about the supplies that you need to crochet a beanie. Now, this is the first video. I'm going to put together a series of videos about how to crochet a beanie to give you an idea and give you the basics so that you can kind of run with it and crochet a beanie if you so desire. So I'm not really going to give you a specific pattern in this series. I have a men's pattern I'll link down below for free if you're interested in that. If you're looking for help on like a baby beanie or something like that, I really don't make baby beanies very often. I really make men's, women's, and kids sometimes. So that's just something to think about. We'll get more into sizing and stuff in another video. This one's about supplies, but I also just want to mention that I'm going to pull a few of my older videos into this series and just like make some before and after to flesh it out a little bit more because they're some of my more popular videos and I figure I can offer more information on the topic. But like, it's funny because I shot those over 5 years ago and I lived in a different house and I had different hair. So if you end up like watching the whole series, just laugh with me about that. So, okay, let's talk about what supplies you need to crochet a beanie. You have options. So I'm going to show you like the basics. That's what I would start with. But there's other fun things and it depends on like how thick and warm you want the beanie to be. So the basic version, you would start with something like this. This is worsted weight yarn, or actually it doesn't say worsted weight on this label. I realize it says medium weight. And you want to look at the label of all of these and you'll see where it says number 4. This is medium weight yarn, mostly called worsted weight. The brand is Impeccable by Loops and Threads. This is from Michaels. This is one of my favorite worsted weight yarns that I've tried, but I'm expanding and learning more, so maybe I'll have a new favorite soon. I don't know. And this makes a really nice beanie. It's really, and actually more importantly, if you're kind of new to this is probably the easiest to work with in my experience of like teaching people how to make beanies. If this is your first time, go with this yarn. And with this yarn, you can actually look on the label when you pick out some yarn. It will tell you what size hook to use. It says 5 millimeters on here. And I do use a 5 millimeter hook. Like I go back and forth. It doesn't really matter all that much, but like I like to use one size bigger than that sometimes because I crochet a little tightly. Anyway, I go back and forth between the 5 millimeter and the 5.5 millimeter hook that I use along with worsted weight yarn. So if I were you, I'd pick up a package. I'll link one down below where you can get like a 5.5, a 5, and I think there's like a couple smaller sizes too. It's just helpful to have a range of hooks to choose from a little bit depending on how loose or tight you crochet. So I'll get to the other yarns later. Let's talk about just like the basics. Now, I just got done creating a course about how to crochet beanies for men, and I stress this in the course. Like if you're gonna crochet a beanie from one of my patterns or kind of follow the methods that I talk about, you really wanna have some stitch markers or just one stitch marker. And I have a package of, these are different random ones that just ended up in this package. I have no idea what the brand is anymore of any of these. I don't have any packaging for them. I just know that some of them lock and they have this little, they'll snap into place and like stay there, which is nice because they'll keep your spot for you. And some of them don't, which is, I kind of like to use both because sometimes you're like moving this, when you're starting out with a beanie, you'll move the stitch marker with every round. And then after a while, I will not move it anymore and I'll leave it, and I'll show you this in this series, kind of how I do that and why. But I'll leave it in there until I finish the hat at some point. So that's nice to have the locking stitch marker because it's not like a problem that's unsolvable, but it's kind of a bummer when your stitch marker falls out. Like if it usually happens when you put it away like in your crochet bag for a day or two and you come back and it's fallen out, and that's kind of a bummer. So it's nice to have those locking ones. So that's really important. I didn't used to use stitch markers. I used to just eyeball everything, and you totally can do that, but I like to use them now because it just helps me make things look consistent and look how I want them to look. So we got the yarn, the hook, the stitch markers. Then obviously you need some scissors, and it can be any scissors. These are little adorable scissors that I got in a little shop in Denver. I have no idea how I could link those up if you like them, but you can use any type of scissors. It doesn't have to be anything special. Just all you're gonna do is like cut the yarn when you're done, that's it. And here's an optional thing that I like to use, especially when I am doing a beanie with stripes, because when there's stripes, there's a lot of ends to weave in. So this is called a tapestry needle, and it's really nice to get the kind that are like, that have that little bend at the end, because this helps you weave in the ends so that they'll stay tight and the beanie won't start like coming unraveled. And this helps you, this little tip helps you get the yarn kind of through the tight spaces in the beanie so it'll stay put well. Plus it's faster, I think, than the other method for weaving in your ends is to just use a crochet hook and like kind of like do it that way. But I prefer this, but you definitely don't need this. You can use your crochet hook at the end too to weave in the ends. So those are the basic things that I would have. Here's a couple of fun things just to think about for future projects, or maybe if you're experienced with beanies, you want to try something new. You could go with something like this. This is, oh, this white has glare. This is bulky weight yarn. So the first one I showed you was worsted weight yarn. This is bulky weight yarn. It is quite a bit thicker, and that means that the beanie works up a lot faster. So that is actually the pattern that I have down below that's free for you if you're interested. It's a men's beanie that's made with this bulky yarn, and I call it the 1 hour beanie because this really works up fast. This yarn usually takes me over and out, maybe between 1 to 2 hours to make a beanie, but this one I can do probably 45 minutes or something. So that's fun about it. Plus it's thicker, it's a little bit warmer. You know it's bulky weight yarn when you see there's a number 5, it says bulky right there. But if you're using bulky weight yarn, you need a bigger hook to go with it. So I use this hook. It is size L, which I believe is 8 millimeters. So, you know, use a 5 millimeter hook with the worsted weight, 8 millimeter hook with the bulky. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to forget to get a bigger hook if you don't already have one. And then the third option, this is the thickest option. This is called super bulky, and it's number 6 on the label. It's number 6 and it says super bulky. And I do like this type. I've used several different colors of this brand, this Hometown USA from Lion brand. I recommend it, it's good stuff. And then you want an even bigger hook. And I think I use this one mostly for this yarn. It's only one size bigger than the one I use for the bulky yarn. This is a size M. I always remember the letters. I don't remember the numbers very well. 9 millimeters. So this is a 9 millimeter hook. It goes well for me anyway. You might have to experiment. You know, sometimes you might crochet tighter or looser than me. So, you know, as far as hook size, you might not be able to just follow exactly how I do it. You might need to experiment, which is why I like to buy those packages of hooks and have like a range from small to large so that you can like play with different hooks if you need to kind of make it work for you. So those are some options. Like I said, these two thicker yarns are gonna make a warmer beanie. So I just made a beanie out of bulky weight yarn for a customer on Etsy because she said that she was freezing her booty in New York and she needed something warm. So I chose the thick yarn for her. And so that's something to think about if you're making gifts for people or if you're in a really cold climate. Play with that thicker yarn and it's going to be a lot warmer. Also, generally if you get like a wool blend, I don't think this is a wool blend, this is acrylic. Yeah, all these ones I showed you are acrylic, but Lion brand makes one a lot like this in super bulky. That's a wool blend, which I didn't grab to show you. But anyway, wool is usually even warmer. So just something to think about. Finally, the last thing I will show you that I have that's totally optional but I love is a clover pom-pom maker. And of course, not everybody likes pom-poms on their beanies, but I like it, and this is a good size. I think this is 3.5 or 3 3/8 or something like that size. They sell in a package of 2. There's this one, and then there's one that's a smaller size that come together. I think this one looks the best on like adult size beanies. You might want a size smaller for like a kid or baby size beanie. So this is optional. You can make pom-poms without this, but this just makes it fun and easy, and I like using this, so I recommend it. So those are some supplies. So grab your hook and yarn, whichever size you like, whatever look you want to have, or whatever skill level you feel ready for. And again, I've got that free pattern for you underneath for a men's beanie, but we'll kind of talk about just like beanies in general so that you could kind of go with this and make whatever size beanie you want. So I will see you in the next one. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about like an overview of how does a beanie work and how do you crochet one.